Welcome back to the It's Bigger Than Me podcast. I'm your host, Molly Trotter Gomez. You guys, I'm so excited for our guest today. She is such a light. And I just told her, and you're gonna see it too if you're watching video, how amazing is her bookshelf, first of all. It's just stunning. I can't stop thinking and looking at my bookshelf now. I'm like, I need more organization in my life. But anyways, Brooke DeBoer, I am so excited to be able to have you on the show. Brooke is just such an amazing human being. We've been following each other for, I don't even know, many years now. And she really has a passion to help people overcome their trauma of abuse of bullying. And I know so many people have had different forms of bullying going on in their lives. Maybe some do now, or maybe your kids do. I mean, there's so much, it just runs rampant. So I love that you have that passion, Brooke. And we're so excited to even talk about your book today here on the show. But before we dive into all that goodness, please let the folks at home know a little bit more about who you are.
Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so happy to be here. I basically had bullying and abuse all through, well, bullying for all of my school age years. And, it was mixed in with good friendships and I had a nice supportive family, but I had quite a bit of bullying and enough to where it wore down my self-esteem throughout the years and the way that I looked at myself, how I put myself out there. And eventually I ended up in a couple of dysfunctional relationships. One was in high school. I was able to escape that one and without too much damage, but enough that, again, it wore down my self-confidence. And then I ended up in a relationship with my first daughter's father, who I thought that I would marry, but I ended up realizing that this wasn't a healthy situation, and it became physically abusive. And at that point, I had a decision to make. What kind of mom am I going to be for my daughter? I found out during the relationship that I was pregnant. It was unplanned. And so I had to really go to God and figure out how I was going to make some changes and adjustments in my life. And so that was the beginning of my healing process, though my healing process has been over the span of many, many years. So I became a life coach in 2020. I'm skipping around a little bit because it's a lot of time that passed. I was a young woman when this all happened. And then in 2020, I became a life coach and I started helping other women. In between there, I had to do a lot of work on myself in order to think that I could help other women. And so the book talks about all of that. It tells the whole story. It tells what my process was, the different things that happened to me, and how I healed over time. And once I became a life coach, I realized so many other women experience similar things. I had a lot of clients that have had bullying or abuse even in childhood. And so I realized at one point, I just felt like God spoke to my heart. It's time to tell your story, because also my daughters went through some different forms of bullying. And I just really felt like it was important for me to not only tell my story, but then also define what is bullying and what is a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy relationship. And there's a lot more talk about that these days, but I feel like we can't talk about it enough. So I decided that my story was worth sharing. Actually, I felt like God put it on my heart. And so here I am. I've published the book and I'm sharing it. And I'm hoping to create a movement where we have a better understanding of what bullying and abuse looks like, what a toxic relationship looks like versus a healthy relationship. And then also with my coaching, I just care deeply about people living the life of their dreams. And if you don't get the processing of the pain out of the way, it's really hard to move forward in your life. This also came through my coaching training, where my mentors said, if you have somebody who doesn't have emotional stability, you're going to have to work side by side with a therapist so that the person can develop that or get to that place of having emotional stability, have processed their pain enough so that they can start moving forward. There's a lot I can do as a coach working with people to get to a place of being more centered emotionally, but I'm not a therapist. So there's also I've done a lot of therapy in my life. So there's definitely room for all of it, coaching, therapy, prayer, and all of that is discussed in the book.
That's awesome. I love that. And just such a really great holistic view of like your story of what you experienced and then just what you've been able to do from that. A lot of my listeners have heard me say this quote many times the Lord gave to me. Your story is meant to be mentorship to somebody else. And there's
I
things
love that.
a lot of us get to mentor people on, share our triumph, right? From our trauma to our triumph. But so many either are like, no, how could I do that because they haven't gone through the healing, or no, nobody
Hmm.
needs no one's going to, who am I kind of a thing, really. But
Yes.
you give such hope even through that synopsis right there of what you've been able to overcome. So I would love kind of briefly to even touch on for those listening to this, like
Hmm.
they're listening and they're like, yes, I have trauma, or maybe they've stepped it down so far they probably don't even remember. Like, where does
Hmm.
one start? Is there like a question? Is there something that somebody could start with to really start digging up so they can start that healing process?
I think it's just a process of learning to listen to your heart. So if you have an awareness that you have trauma, if you have an awareness that you've been through something really difficult and hard, it's just a matter of starting there and being like, okay, and also knowing that you didn't deserve anything that happened to you. You know, if somebody has mistreated you, if they belittled you, if you have been bullied or abused in any way, you didn't do anything to deserve that. And I think a lot of times the psychological part of all of this is we start believing that we're not worth being in a healthy relationship because we feel so much shame for whatever we are considering as our responsibility in the relationship, whether if you stayed or you maybe participated in some level of argument or fighting that then turned into an abusive situation. I mean, there's so many just different ways that it can get really twisted. So I think just starting there and knowing that God never wanted you to be in an unsafe situation. This is, you know, your peace is your birthright. Your heart feeling safe and you feeling safe and loved is your birthright as God's child and just being a human, you know. So if you've been hurt in any way, it's not your fault. And I think when you can start with that, then you can give yourself permission to ask for help and get the support that you need. And there's all kinds of that out there. It's just a matter of reaching out. And, you know, sometimes people find it through finding a safe friend or family member. And by safe, I mean somebody who's not going to judge you. They're not going to, again, I use the word belittle or make you feel like in some way you deserve this treatment. Somebody who can listen to you and then help you find if you need professional support and professional help.
Yeah, that's so
So,
important. And there's so many people who don't have friends and family like that that will create that
right.
space and understanding like as much as you want it, it may not be directly close to you like that, but there are so many other support systems that are out there. So it doesn't mean that all is
Mhm.
lost and the hope is gone. There is so much hope. And I would love for you to be able
Yes.
to share like a turning point for you of like a story of hope to just give people some of that because I know at any point, any year, any decade, everybody's looking for help because so often people are like, oh, there's just no hope. And there really is. And that's a big reason why I love to bring guests on this podcast like you, where you've gone through such hard things,
Mhm.
but you basically told yourself, this isn't it. Like there's more here,
Mhm.
but I get to do the healing, and the healing is hard work. But give us a story of hope if you can recall one, because I think that would be really inspiring today.
Okay. So, I mean, I can speak to my story and I can speak to certain client stories without naming names, of course, and speaking in general terms. Um, for me, I feel like the hope that I can share is that I felt very small. And I had a daughter that I mean, I was pregnant unexpectedly. This was not the path that I felt that I was going or what I had hoped I was going to have laid out for me. And I needed to look at I mean, ultimately, I physically looked at myself in the mirror and I said, no more. And it was at a restaurant I was looking at a rehearsal dinner location. My mom and her friend were there, and my husband to be, who was both emotionally abusive and had become physically abusive in a couple instances. And for me, I needed to look in the mirror, and there was a point where I just told myself, enough is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to feel this way anymore. And that was the moment that I walked out of the bathroom of the restaurant after looking at myself in the mirror and saying this. And I went back and I said, I honestly, I don't care if I ever see you again. You need to go. I'm done. And that was it. I never
Wow.
saw him again. And while, as a Christian, I know sometimes, and especially when there's a child involved, there needs to be some interaction with the father, and I'm not opposed to that. And in this case, it didn't work out that way. And it was, you know, pretty much his choice. Once I said, I don't care if I see you again, he just chose to go. And then I received other support. And thankfully, I had that other support. And I acknowledge and recognize what you're saying, that a lot of people don't have that support, which is why in the book, I list a lot of different places that you can call and go to.
Awesome.
As well, I'm available and can help too. So um, I'm getting a little off track here, but that's my story. I mean, I was in a really, really low, bad place, and now I'm a coach to other women. I mean, many years later, it took a lot of work, but I'm a coach to other women, and I have 3 daughters, and they are successfully working through their relationship things, and hopefully I'm going to be able to touch a lot of people's lives. And I mean, would you say turn your trauma into triumph? I believe, turn your scars into stars, and then go out and be of service to others. So the hope I also want to give women out there is, if you've been through something like this and you process it and you get the help that you need, you can then go out and be a light to others, that you
Yes.
can get through to the other side of this. So there's that story. And then I have a client who was physically abused and emotionally abused as a child. And she's now successfully gotten through some really tough stuff professionally, working with me, coaching, and she's had a therapist and gotten the support. And she's processed through it. And she now owns her own business and is successfully running a medical practice, and um,
Wow.
one of the most desired medical practices in our town now. So, and she's overcome a ton of adversity. So it is possible. There, I mean, now I'm starting to think of all the stories, but it is possible to overcome, and I want women out there to believe that it is possible.
I love that. I mean, there is so much hope. And I think like I just keep hearing that. It's like so many people have a lot of trauma. They pushed it down, masked it with, I'm going to be super successful. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to forget about it. Well, it doesn't forget you. I mean, it's still there and
No.
it's going to keep lingering. But how amazing, even for your client success, that you've been able to really help her just break free and break through to then
Hmm.
expedite just probably the results that she's had, because so often that trauma is such a weight and we think it's going to go away. No, it just gets heavier and heavier as you just choose not to deal with it. It's almost like if you start packing on the pounds and you look in the mirror like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, and then one day you're like, what happened? And that weight is now taking a toll on your body until you choose to get the
Hmm.
weight off. And that takes work, whether you're in the gym or you're in your feelings and you're in your mind and you're really digging through like
Yes.
that is going to do, or what it has done, really. So
Hmm.
this has been so good. I can't wait for people to pick up your book, to really dive in. I know so many people that need support with this, and I know they're just looking for the right person. There's a lot of coaches and therapists and a lot of people out there, but I
Hmm.
love bringing people on this show because, they trust me. They've been following me for however long, and they trust me and the
Of
connections
course.
I have. And I love connecting good people with good people. So, Brooke is definitely one of those great connections, and her book is going to be in the show notes. So you can definitely check that out. But as we wrap up here today, is there anything else that you would like to say and leave us with?
Yes, I think I would like to say that your past does not equal your future. I mean, your life is not done, and you can restart any day. Each day is a new day, and you can choose to put yourself first. And it is really difficult to do that, especially as women, I've noticed. It's hard because we tend to be caretakers as well. And then if we have trauma on top of it, it's hard to do that. But you're going to be better for everybody else if you care about others, if you take care of your heart and yourself first. If you take what is it, the 18-inch journey from your head to your heart, take a look at it, give it some time and attention. Your life will be so much more complete and so much better. And you'll be able to go out and serve one day too. So, and I believe God designed us all to have a specific purpose and to be a light in the world. And this is your birthright. So I guess I want to say do the work. Be courageous enough to do the work, ask for help. There are people out there that can help you.
Yes, do the work. I love that. They hear that a lot around here. Take action,
Yes.
go do it. Like, don't just
Yeah.
listen, like go apply. So that is a great way to kind of
Mhm.
like, what action are you going to take after you've listened to this? Go connect with
Yeah,
Brooke. Ask yourself, what is it that I need to heal from? Like, start asking questions, but go take an action today. And Brooke, thank you so
exactly.
much for coming on the show. You've been so great. This is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. It means the world to me that you would lean in, listen in, and be able to hear the value that's being shared on this show. Don't forget, if you love this episode, rate the show, leave me a review, be sure to share it with a friend, and don't forget to tag me on social media. I will definitely be giving you a shout out. Also, come say hi, drop in the DMs. I would love to be able to hear what stood out to you the most on the episode and if there's any topics that you would like to hear on the show. We'll see you next time.